and welcome to Let's Just Do This, the show where we roll up our sleeves and have soulful conversations about how to help you become the CEO of your health and your family. I'm Margaret Wallis-Duffy, and I'm always happy to be sitting next to Mr. Todd Miller.
Sleeves rolled up, I'm ready.
He's ready.
Let's do it.
Me too. We're ready to get going here. And you know, we love the diversity that we get to bring to this table, don't we, Todd? And having some real in-depth conversations from professionals who believe in empowering others to live their best life. Now, as a mom of two kids, now, you know, one a teenager, yes, and one a 23-year-old man, today's topic, I think all of you parents are going to want to sit back, grab a cup of tea, and listen up, because there's going to be some gems of information we're about to share. So without further ado, I'm excited to welcome our guest today. Her name is Michelle McVittie. Michelle has been working with children, youth, families for over 20 years. She has her Bachelor's of Arts in Sociology and her postgrad diploma in Child Life Studies, both from McMaster University. Her experiences range from working with young offenders as a behavioral specialist in daycares, working in outpatient and inpatient pediatric health care, in child and youth mental health, so important, and community education. She has leveraged her career with many years of experience and created, I love this, momthemanager. Oh boy, can I relate. She has created content for families, children, youth, moms, and women to feel more in control again. Once again, that CEO of your life and your health. Michelle also does corporate speaking engagements on topics such as self-care, balance for better communication in the workplace, and she recently has written a book called I Quit. Oh, wait, I'm a mom. A self-help book to help moms find the joy again in motherhood. Oh, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Mom the Manager, is that on a business card yet?
Of course it is.
Awesome.
Of course it is.
I love that.
Yes, yeah.
You know, I absolutely love the wealth of experience that you're bringing, but what I love more, Michelle, about you when I first met you that was instantly relatable was your authenticity, your candidness, but yet an ability to deliver a message that's still empowering, but that will elicit change. Tell me a little bit about you and why you came to where you are now with Mom the Manager.
Well, thank you very much. Those are very kind words. And I do feel that the reason why people relate to me is because I am genuine. I don't tell people that everything's perfect. I talk about my struggles, and I talk about my struggles in my book. But you can either learn from your struggles or you get back up. And the more times you fall, the more times you learn to get back up. And that's essentially what I wanted to do. I want to be the leader of change. And instead of complaining about things, I thought, I'm going to start doing things differently. And we do that with our children. We need to be good role models. So I want to be a good role model to moms, to parents, to men, to teens, to anybody that wants to change things in their lives, because things can be different. We can either sit in our misery, and sometimes it is miserable, absolutely.
Yep.
Things are tough, life is tough. However, things can be different. You do not have any choice of what's going on around you. You do have a choice on how you react, and that's a lot about that self-care piece.
Yes.
And that's why I wrote my book, because it's 10,000 words. It's very quick, but practical tips. And everybody that has written my book have said it doesn't sound preachy, and I feel like we're just having a conversation, and it's relatable, and it empowers people. And that's what I want to do. I want to empower people.
You know, Michelle, when I became a mom, your whole world shifts, and there's such a sense of pride, but absolute fear, excitement, but yet, oh my goodness, like, does this kid realize I have no idea what I'm doing? And then you go through the ages and stages, and you're still a woman, and you're still a wife, and you're still a business person, and there's so much to manage. One of the things that you just said that, you know, I say to my children every day, and in fact, I was just having a conversation with an amazing young woman named Annie Seiler, who's shadowing me, a university student from the U.S. who's come up. How honored am I that a young youth, one of these millennials that don't want to do things, reached out to me to want to shadow and learn from me. And that was your description of failing forward, and that it doesn't have to be perfect. I always say, and I think in the world that we live in today, resilience isn't there because everybody can't fail. Everybody has to win. But so much learning happens when we fail and learn from it. Thank you for saying it in such an eloquent and professional way, but also in an empowering way. How important is it for our youth, our teens, to recognize that they don't have to be Instagram perfect and that sometimes they're going to fail?
Absolutely. But that comes from us,
Yes.
right? A lot of times I hear the complaints that the school should be doing this, this person needs to be doing that. It comes from us, and of course, schools can help with that, but it needs to come from us. So clearly Annie is a resilient person, but also probably has very supportive parents that have told her, you can, right? And then she's moved forward to do that because you have to have that support. And what I hear from teenagers is, I don't feel the support and I don't feel heard.
Right.
So some will shut down and others will act out, and then we say, see, you're being defiant. But it's very different with a 2-year-old that you have a lot more control over them. You put them in their, in their timeout chair and you sit there and I will
Right.
take your tablet away.
Right.
Well, when they get older, it's like, wait a minute, I have an opinion here. I'd like to have some input. And that's what I like too about when I do my education is I never just sit there and preach. It's always getting people to kind of tell me what they think.
Right.
What are your impressions? And let's work from that because that's empowering because I don't want anybody to think I don't have this. Or you know what, I'm on the right track a little bit and maybe I need to tweak. And it's the same thing with our teenagers. We have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Why not let them try? But you have to give them the tools because there can be 2 kids in the same home, brought up with the same parents. One was born resilient and one was not for different reasons, right? And what we do is we get really angry and we think, why is this kid so much trouble?
Right.
And then we put blocks up. And then what happens is that children start acting out and parents were saying they're doing it for attention. They're just, they know better. Well, sometimes they do have good days. Brain is under construction until 25.
Wow.
And sometimes, I know, wow,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes we have good days. But if you are comparing yourself to that, my 9-year-old, can't figure it out, but you want me to reward my 15-year-old because they're brushing their teeth and getting themselves ready, I don't think so. But they need more support, and that comes from us, right?
As a parent, you are managing all that your own feelings. And I love that you're saying and validating the fact that we can project this. And when I look at it in terms of integrative health, we have a system that's very disempowering because we want people to tell us, like you say the word preach, we're being
Yeah.
preached to,
Yes.
whether it's your doctor that's preaching to you, whether it's the nurse that's preaching to you. Whereas we often learn so much from listening to what the individual that's going through something has to say and not projecting what we're feeling as well. That's what you're saying, correct? Even with teens.
Absolutely. So a lot of this is actually being able to tolerate your own distress. So
Yes.
and distress in your child as well. Unfortunately, we have this epidemic of hyper-parenting,
Yes.
and we are jumping in and fixing all the time, or not allowing our children to try. Or if they do, see, I told you were going to screw up. I told you were going to do this wrong. Or we feel bad and think, shoot, I shouldn't have let them ride their bike. I shouldn't have let them do this.
Or can
Now
I even
see-
jump in?
Yeah.
Or because of the world that we live in with devices and the
Yes.
perfect filtered world,
Oh.
Yes.
what's that going to reflect on me?
Oh,
Is my
absolutely.
neighbor going to think my kid?
Yeah.
It's like their life is a reflection of ours when they are
Absolutely.
individuals.
So much judgment.
Yes.
So much judgment. And there
Yes.
needs to be more of that community. However, we've lost that community because it's judgment.
Yes.
And I'm scared to ask for help. But also, it's also been a shift because if my neighbor yelled at me because I was walking all over their grass or I'd stepped on their tulips and just been a kid, then my mother would have corrected me, right? Now, parents are yelling at the neighbor, don't talk to my kid. So a lot of people don't step in. It's like, not my problem. I'm not going to say anything
Right.
because someone is going to yell at me. Someone's going to say something to me. So I'm just not going to say anything.
Right.
Right?
It's funny, I grew up with do as I say, not as I do.
Oh, so frustrating.
Which, now that I've raised some teenagers, I realize, and hearing your message, the authenticity to stand up as a parent and say, you know what, I screwed up as a kid.
Oh,
I made
so
lots
important.
of mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's important, especially when they get to the teenage years, to know their parents aren't perfect. And they made
Absolutely.
mistakes and struggled
Well,
as
some of us aren't.
Some
I'm
of us aren't.
totally kidding.
I know.
Totally kidding.
But it just, I think it fosters a sense of trust that
Yes.
you're not a perfect human, you don't have it all figured out, and your kids are safe to make mistakes, and that let them try and make a mistake, and Dad's not going to say, hey, I did it the first time when I was a kid.
Absolutely. And trust is the base of all relationships. So if you don't have that trust either way, if you don't trust your child and your child doesn't trust you, then we really need to start from that and building that rapport. You want the child to call you and say, Dad, I said I was going to a sleepover. I'm in Toronto right now,
Yeah.
and I don't know where I am, and I need to be picked up. So maybe there's going to be a consequence, but it's not going to be the first thing that you do, and you're going to say, thank you for calling me.
Yeah.
That's the relationship you want to have with your
I
children.
want to know you're
right?
safe.
Yes, 100%.
Oh, so
Yeah.
that scenario that you just gave, I think is very, very powerful. And I think many people are sitting at home and listening to that.
Yeah.
I want to stop us there and take a short break here, but I want that to really allow to sink in for people because I think our instincts as parents is, well, first of all, safety, of course, but is to get upset immediately and have kids, especially teens, shut down. And as you said, and trust is lost. Thank you for finishing off that first segment with such a powerful message. And when we take a break, we're going to come back and we're going to dive into some real tips, some real strategies, rolling up our sleeves, as we say here at Let's Just Do This, and more with Michelle McVittie,
Yes.
Mom the Manager. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Let's Just Do This, the things that happen off camera. I'm Todd Miller along with Margaret Wallis-Duffy and Michelle McVittie. Now, we ended the last segment where we had a child that somehow made their way to Toronto and called and said, Dad, Mom, I'm in trouble. I don't know how I got here. Help. As a parent, my first reaction would probably, the blood pressure would start rising.
Yeah.
I would want to ask a million questions about how they got there. Who, did someone make you?
Yes.
And what you're saying, what I'm sensing is we need to just stop that and we need to be comfortable with our distress.
Yes.
Talk to us about that. How do we bring it down and become zen?
It's really tough. And what you're talking about is you just being a human and loving your child. What I try to talk to parents about is, are you protecting them or are you preparing them? And we automatically go into protecting.
Bubble
right?
wrap. I'm a bubble wrap parent
right?
sometimes.
So that will bring up emotion. And also, it'll just bring up the way that we were brought up as well, right? And we do get angry and we do get upset. And those things are okay. It's just what you do with those emotions. And if we turn it into, I told you never to do this, I'm never going to trust you again, then it's just going to be a really tough drive out, an hour or two, or wherever you're going, to pick this child up. And it's about the child right now and not about you. And when we turn it into me, it's now your problem, and the child is already feeling bad and now is going, and it's shame, right? We're
Yes.
shaming them. Why is projecting shame, saying you've done it on purpose. Brain is under construction until 25, and I'm impulsive, and I want to have friends, and I want to do things, and I went to this party, and I didn't know how to say no, and now I'm stuck. So what we want to focus on is the fact that, thank you for calling me. I am stressed. You can put that out there.
Yep.
But I'm going to calm myself down, and then later on we're going to talk about this, right?
I like that.
I love the fact you can give yourself an opportunity to think and to process
Absolutely.
yourself as a
Yes.
parent,
Yeah.
but also how it makes your child feel supported so that it doesn't matter what is happening.
Sure.
They know they can pick up that phone. And one of the things that you just said that it was a real aha for me. Are you preparing
Or protecting.
or protecting?
Yeah.
Hear that. Like, listen to those words. Are you preparing or are you protecting?
Yeah.
And let's be candid, as a mom or as a dad, that's sometimes a fine line because, as you said, you just want what's best for them, and it's hard to let go.
Yes,
But they do
absolutely.
need to leave the nest, and they do have. I just had a conversation this week, and I remember it like it was yesterday when my son went off to university for the first time, and he was going 5 hours away. I felt like my heart was being ripped out of my
Yeah.
chest, and I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
But yet I knew that's what I wanted for him.
100%.
But I had to manage my distress,
Yes.
which there was a lot of it, right?
Absolutely. And it's not about you.
It's not about
He's
me.
going somewhere exciting, and we know that, but we're human,
Yes.
right? But you can either let it take over, or it gets into more about your issues. And have you given him the tools to succeed,
Exactly.
right? And that is the most important tip, is the tools, because some children, again, more resilient, will figure things out. Other children need more steps and more opportunity to practice. So if they never get a chance to practice, then when they go away, it's really tough. I don't know how to boil water,
Right.
let alone
Exactly.
figure out how to get to class, how to do things. So we want to work with them, but set them up for success. What are they struggling with? Why are they struggling with that? And then how do we teach them to do that? And that's a whole hour conversation that we could chat about that. But it's really important that we don't just get angry at the behavior, but we say, why are they struggling? Help me understand. Not using the why question, it's conversation blocker,
Yeah.
but help me understand. I want to support you. I don't know how to do it. How do we work on this together?
I like what you said, though, because I said Zen earlier, but that's not what you're preaching. You're not preaching becoming this non-feeling robot. You're saying it's okay to let them hear that you're angry or upset over
Sure.
what happened, because I guess they need to learn the difference between internal consequences, like they got themselves in trouble, and external consequences,
100%.
where parents or employers could potentially say, you know, we're quite upset with you.
Yes, and I think that's a great way of putting it, because that's exactly what they need. Because when they go out into the world, well, the teacher doesn't like me. She gave me, an A minus instead of an A. And well, if you're not happy with it, you could advocate for yourself. But being able to practice that in a safe space, that I've learned how to deal with my emotion, and then when I go into the real world, I have the tools to deal with it, and then I've got my parents to support me through
Backing
it.
me up. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so important. So as a parent, if we're looking at supporting the parents so that they can manage their distress, we both believe totally in self-care.
Yes.
What role does that play in the work that you do with families, or maybe even with corporations? How important is it to be looking at self-care?
It's so important. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
You cannot deal with a toddler that you cut their cheese in half and they're having a meltdown,
Right.
or a
Cut it the wrong way.
yes, or the teenager that didn't get invited to the party, or someone didn't text them right back. We think, what are you talking about? You want problems, kid? I'll give you problems, right?
Yeah.
So if we're feeling like this, stuff happens in life, and we're not very good at making choices when we're in a snow globe of thinking,
Right.
And when we tend to talk to our teenagers when they're in a snow globe, we're in a snow globe, and it's a whole hurricane of bad,
Yes, yes.
So we have to be able to calm it down. The one strategy that is really great, I'm an emotional, I squish my emotion. So I will sit there and I'll squish it. So what I've learned is to breathe and make space for that emotion and acknowledge the emotion. So Dr. Siegel talks about name it to tame it. So it's just being able to acknowledge that emotion, label it, and actually even just saying that emotion out loud will bring it down and make you feel better. But then what am I doing with that? And self-care is not about buying chocolate or drinking a box of wine, it's not those big things. It can be little things, because little things in life add up and our heads pop off. And little things in life make us feel better. Going to bed on time, reading a book, cuddling with our partner, singing and dancing in the kitchen.
Yep.
That's self-care, but it has to happen on a regular basis.
It does. And one of the things that I loved what you just said, and as a massage therapist,
Yes.
that every day lays my hands on people, and the mind-body connection, our emotions are housed in our body. Our body is a house for our
absolutely.
emotions.
Yeah.
You described it as squishing. I can relate to that, because that's the way I process. And what people need to understand is over time, that gets housed in our body, and then physiologically, things can change. Hormones change. Disease process happens insidiously over time. Then lo and behold, this little thing over the course of years, without being aware of the mind-body connection and doing things like self-care, breathing, recognizing where you're storing it in your body is so important. Maybe you do need to reach out to a massage therapist. Maybe you do need to see a counselor to talk things through. But the way you so eloquently described, you squish it, I would love to challenge all of our let's just do this listeners and viewers. When you have an opportunity, when you're feeling stressed, listen to your body. Take a minute before you act and feel and pay attention to where you're housing it. And then use some of the strategies that you talked about. Because, because it's so powerful and it doesn't cost money and it doesn't have side effects. Actually has good side effects, right? So important. It really is. And now what about the kids? What about teens? How do you address teens and their inability to manage their ups and downs in emotions?
100%. So children learn what they live. So that's why it's really important for us to be good role models. I've had a lot of teenagers say, my mom's a hot mess, but she wants me to see you and, talk to you about things. But, and it gets frustrating. And sometimes I will look at a teenager and think, yeah, you're doing really well.
Yeah.
You got this.
And the parents sometimes are so stressed. Again, they're in snow globe, so they project and they see things differently, right?
Are they stressing their teens out because of their reactions?
Absolutely.
Okay. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. I don't want to blame or shame anybody, but it is about self-awareness and how are we interacting? Because usually if you change the way you interact with your child, your partner, your boss, they will react differently to you. But you have to be self-aware and you have to have that awareness so you can say, hey, this is getting heated, let's take a moment. But we need to come back to it and use opportunities for discussion. So something didn't go well, let's talk about it.
Right.
The child is shutting down and sleeping every weekend, that's a red flag. Let's check in and say, hey, what's going on? And how do we make this part of a family unit? And give them opportunities to try new things, create a quiet zone or a Zen zone that they can go to and draw or color or get some kinetic sand or rice in a bowl. My daughter's 14 years old and she loves rice in a bowl, or she loves making her own slime. It's just relaxing and soothing, right? But making it the norm that it's everybody, not just you because you're stressed out and you need to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm going to Google self-aware later because I'm not sure if I am aware, but no, it's just being cognizant of that interplay, those dynamics between two or more people.
It's true, 100%, and that's what makes a connection between parent and child. And if the connection is not there, that's where it starts to struggle, and they can feel it, even when you're trying to connect and you're like, oh yeah, I can see you'd be really upset about that, or like, they're like, you don't even get it. What's the point? What is the point of even, so some will just shut down completely or others will act out. So we see the tip of the iceberg, what's underneath it? And let's look at this as they're giving us a message. They can't articulate it, so it's up to us as the adult to pull from that and get the conversation started. And it could just be spending time building rapport, because when we get to the tough stuff, you want to already have that rapport. The only time you talk to me is I get in trouble. So why would I open up to you now?
Right. We only have a couple of minutes left, and there's so much more we want to cover, so you're going to have to come back. There's just no doubt about it. These things. The device-filled world that we live in. I know that could be an entire conversation, and we'll do that on another episode. Do you have some ways to help all of us, teens and parents, the impact that these screens are having on our inability to actually be connected? So what do you think about that?
So I think it's so generalized that every teenager doesn't know how to speak because they have... How many adults will sit and just be on her phone? And I get sucked in. If you said, Michelle, I'm going to take your phone away for a week, I'd probably pass out, right? But we just think it's about the kids. The thing is that those things are part of our lives, so we have to have certain expectations. And I will let you have your phone, but maybe if it's getting in the way, then we need to have that conversation. And we're all going to turn it off an hour before bed because the blue light actually keeps your mind awake. And no one is going to have one in their bedroom. It is going to be locked up and, not as a punishment, but just to say, hey, it's waking you up. You're checking your email, you're checking things like that. So being aware, talking about safety, talking about what's appropriate and not appropriate, and making connections is having kids over to your house, connecting with your kids. And this is part of communication, but
Absolutely.
it's not all of it.
Absolutely.
Some children just need a lot of help because it seems like they're connecting and it's safe. It's
Right.
safe from behind a screen to play video games with somebody across the world or next door. It's really hard for them to knock on someone's door or to give them a call. So we have to facilitate that and set it up and maybe give them those tools because some kids will do it, others will not.
And that's why I raised the question, because I did want, it's a two-way street, parents and children. And being, once again, aware, not only of our feelings, but of our environment and the way in which we interact with it. And,
Yeah.
and yes, you're right, we're not going to be living without these tools now,
No.
but how are we going to do it so that it's not going to impact our overall health, because we're seeing that. Michelle, the time has gone way too quick, but in that short period of time, you've given us so many tidbits of information that I know our viewers are going to so enjoy and actually put into action. So thank you for joining us. You'll come back?
Oh, I would love to come back.
Fantastic.
Yes.
If you want more information about Michelle, you can go to mommthemanager.ca, mommthemanager.ca.
Yeah.
And of course, you got to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
Yes, yeah.
You can catch us on YouTube and iTunes and Spotify. We're
We
everywhere.
will be dialing down our social media a little bit after this, won't we?
Well, we'll be managing and being aware of the social
Yes,
media. And of course, you can catch us here on Your TV. On behalf of Todd Miller, myself, and the entire crew here at Your TV, it is such a pleasure to be able to bring integrative health strategies your way. And until next time, what do we say, Todd?
Be well.
Be well.